Hello everyone and welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best-of-3 series of Protoss versus Zerg, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Altitude. Now spawning here in the top right-hand corner of Altitude, playing with the blue Protoss probes, we have Creator and his opponent in the opposite corner with the red Zerg drones for looking at Dark's main hatchery. Both of these players, of course, are from South Korea. This particular series, I believe, was played during one of the recent ESL Open Cups. And from what I've heard, apparently it's a lot of fun. So we're going to check out together exactly what ended up going down. Standard openers here so far from both players. It looks like Creator decided to send a probe super early towards the other side of the map, forcing the Zerg to go for the third base first. And while this looks a little bit uncomfortable, and while it plays a little bit uncomfortable when you first have this happen to you, over the years this happens so frequently that Zerg players have actually, I think they've gotten more comfortable playing the third base first than going for the natural expansion first. Just because it allows you to spread creep a little bit further out into the map, right? I mean, your very first creep tumor will probably start up somewhere over here or somewhere over there. It's just a little bit further out into the map, and in general, as long as you don't really take a whole lot of early game damage, you should be okay. The main downside is the fact that you have to travel with those drones all the way from the main base towards the third base location, and that can be a little bit annoying because you do lose a little bit of mining time. Either way, Creator is... Oh, I thought I saw the Warp Gate research on the production tab already. He must have cancelled it to then go for a Stargate follow-up. Yeah, trying to sell the story right here to his opponent that indeed this is going to be either a Twilight Council or a Robo Facility opener first. The Stargate opener is 50 gas more expensive, so I think what Creator did is he saw that Overlord coming in, he started up the Warp Gate research, then when the Overlord left, so it's going back and forth, when the Overlord left, he decided to cancel Warp Gates, start up the Stargate, and then once again begin the Cybercore research. Anyways, small little trick right there, with Creator trying to make the best of, well, a difficult opponent here, as there are a couple of Zerglings already inside of the main base. They will scout the Stargate right here, so that's always nice. Looks like these probes, well, they're not going to take a whole lot of damage, and in the end, everything's a-okay, as this Adept over here already, okay, killed a drone as well as a bunch of Zerglings. So not bad at all. Can it go home, though? That's the main question here. It's going to be kind of difficult. There are quite a few Zerglings out already, but this is more Zerglings than you normally make in the early game. So honestly, losing this Adept, okay, was almost ready to get away, but losing this Adept, it doesn't really matter all too much when it has already forced out, well, more than the conventional 4 Zerglings that we see usually at this point in the game. 2 Overlords still available on the other side of the map. I think that's the reason why Creator has decided to go for a Void Ray. He's also seen, of course, that there are quite a few of those Zerglings out into the map. First Stargate unit, however, was an Oracle. Spore Crawler does finish up at the perfect moment, and that Oracle is going to have to get on out of there after only a single kill. Wants to see if maybe there's some more damage to gather in the natural, but that ain't going to happen. Alright, so... Dark with a cheeky little Overlord positioning right there. There's a bit more vision range on these Overlords than there are on those Protoss structures. So you end up losing one of them, and I'm assuming, yeah, he is going to check the right side of the map as well. That Overlord is going to try and pretend to be a tree. Very good strategy, but I don't think it will stay alive. In the meantime, though, the Oracle is needed at home, because those Zerglings that we saw earlier are being obnoxious. They will snipe one more Adept, but the third Nexus will live for the time being. Okay. So, a very explosive start in this game for sure. 16 Zerglings have gone down already, though, and that is a lot. You can see that reflected right now in the worker count. Zerg is usually ahead when it comes to the workers at this point in the game, but Dark is just even, and that will suit Creator just fine. This is exactly what he wants. The main question is, though, what exactly will the follow-up be right here from Creator? He's decided to go for a Robo Facility, as he now warps in a couple of sentries, okay, that he hides a little bit further back. At the very least, if a Zergling decided to show up, it wouldn't see all too much. That is kind of interesting, if a Zergling would start knocking on the front door, that is. 5 additional drones end up going down here as well. So Creator is honestly playing a fantastic game so far, not really making a whole lot of mistakes. Yes, he's lost a couple of Adepts, but forcing out this many Zerglings, now this is probably the worst move he's made so far in the game, but he's gonna salvage this one, yeah, reasonably well as well. Gets 2 additional drones right there in total. Okay. So, oh, we're gonna go just good old Immortal Sentry, that's the plan. Okay, so a Zergling is gonna run on over in this direction. Dark is known to continuously check with those units. Additional drones end up falling in the main base. The problem is, though, he may pick up on the fact right now that there's nothing really defending this third Nexus. You gotta be wondering at this point as the Zerg player, like, what exactly am I playing against? Usually we see Blink Stalker, we see quick upgrades. Oh, Dark is looking at this right now. He's like, you know what? I'll just make a couple of Banelings test the waters. He sees one sentry over there. There's quite a few more, though, hiding by the gas geysers. I don't suspect that that is going to work out all too well, but anyways, we're going to continue the harassment. Oracle's at this point out of energy, so Creator tried microing them. Didn't really happen. At the same time, though, we have Banelings over here at the third base location. We have more Banelings on the right side as well. They're going to try and intercept a couple of those probes on the retreat. Beautiful moves right here by Dark. 9 probes have gone down, but good crisis management there as well by Creator, who I think did end up losing the Void Ray there in the end. Yeah, so that Oracle going down kind of sucks, but that Void Ray going down is also not ideal. He does, however, have a lot of energy on those sentries, so these force fields, yeah, they're solid. Okay. So this is kind of an old school build. Right, I mean, it's like a newer version of Immortal Sentry. Well, I say that, we only have one Immortal, so maybe that's not an entirely fair comparison to make. But in the early days of StarCraft 2, we used to see 2 base all-ins based around Immortals and Sentries all the time. These days, the Sentry is not a very popular unit. You kind of need it for some force fields and Guardian shields and all that, but yeah, you don't usually see it as one of the core units in a fight. Now, they did, of course, make it a little bit quicker to build with the new multiplayer balance patch. And maybe that's exactly what Creator is trying to get done here, as he is pushing very deep onto the creep. A Prism, however, is needed, and that one is coming across right now. The problem is, though, yeah, Dark is going to try and trap this army before the reinforcements can arrive. Look at the amount of money in the bank right here for Creator. He just doesn't have a chance to warp in. And that right now means that this entire army gets demolished. Even though Dark didn't have the most successful start in this particular game, he looked at this army composition once and he knew exactly what to do. Now, Creator right there with some really good target firing, sniping a couple of the Banes with that Immortal that is hiding inside of the Prism. Oracle is super handy in this scenario too, so we do still have 2 up in the air. That's nice. Remember, one of them ended up going down. A Void Ray in this scenario would also be fantastic, but I think this is Dark right now, securing his advantage. He's got enough army to, well, continue fighting this as well. These Zerglings will go down eventually, but Zerglings, as you probably know, are basically free, right? I mean, you can make a lot of them for not a whole lot of resources. Obviously, though, one of their main costs is the larva. And Dark doesn't have that many workers here on the back of it. Creator only has 39 workers, but, well, Dark has only got 58. It's really not that great. He's going to be forced to defend right now. Typical Dark move over here, though, despite the fact that he's just to be under attack. Yeah, he decides to send the Zerglings in for the counter, and I think they actually will be able to kill that Nexus right now, so fantastic move right there by Dark. That essentially means that Creator now is all in. He doesn't have a lot of energy anymore, so yeah, only 1 force field, I guess. That Sentry right there does not have enough for a follow-up. Guardian Shield would be amazing as well, but not available. Oracle's mostly out of energy, and I think that this is Dark cleaning up this army, and with that, the chances of Creator in this game. Next up, we find ourselves on Babylon. Yeah, Dark is such a scary opponent to go up against. He just plays the game a little bit differently than the other top Zergs, and it makes it very difficult to figure out exactly what's going to be coming out next, right? I mean, he made like 10 Zerglings before the link speed was done in the previous game. That's just not something you usually do. Anyways, alright, Warp Gate starts up right away, and he starts chrono boosting out a Stalker as well. That is a little bit weird, especially since Creator now decides to... Okay, he's selling the story here of an Adept into a Stargate. That's what he's selling right now, but Creator is, well, not going to be able to catch that Ovi, I don't think. Dark should be able to get it out. Yeah, so you should be able to hide it right there on the high ground, as he now actually decides to go for a Twilight Council. So even though Dark is a bit of a tricky guy to go up against, Creator also being very creative with his gas timings and the way that he is trying to sell the story. Ooh, the Zerglings could have gone in, but apparently Dark decides, no, I don't need it in this game. And that could actually be, that could be a problem. We'll have to see exactly what he decides to go for with this Twilight Council. The most common follow-up for Protoss players in the current meta of StarCraft 2 is to go for the Adept upgrade. That essentially gives them additional attack speed and about 45%. And it makes them significantly more powerful. The problem is, if Dark at this point assumes that it's a Stargate opener, he's probably going to start up spores here in about 10-15 seconds. There is, of course, a chance, though, that Dark has realized at this point that... Okay, he does get the creep tumor. That canceling the warp gate research... Ooh, okay. Well, very nicely done. Canceling the warp gate research right there, but then also on top of that going for a Stalker first is a little bit funky. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dark realizes that he's playing against something a little bit unorthodox as well. As so far, at the very least, he has not given his opponent the respect of going for a Spore Crawler in either of his 2 mineral lines. It is gonna be Glaives, but Creator on top of that is also going for a Dark Shrine. Okay. So, Dark Templar are not a very popular follow-up right now, but we've seen it quite a bit out of Max Specs, right? Where he decides to go for a group of Adepts, and then he at the same time also decides to go for a couple of Dark Templar. And if you kind of hover in between the natural and the third base, there's usually a lot of units that you can snipe there, but I haven't seen a lot of the other Protoss players try to go for a unit composition like that. So maybe that's not what Creator is going for, but kind of seems to be leading in that direction. This is not a very quick Dark Shrine, though, because obviously, well, he spent the resources on the gas, or he spent the Vespian gas right there on the Glaives upgrade first before starting up the Dark Shrine. So this is all a little bit funky, but in the end, he still has a third Nexus. He's gonna have a decent enough economy, but he needs to get something done right here with these units, because the Adepts, they do generally fall off as the game progresses. So this is Dark actually countering Dark Templar. Yeah, the positioning right there of that Spore tells everything. So a couple of Ravagers here available. Yeah, you can't really commit. More Zerglings on the back of it too. One of the links does scout the third Nexus. But even though Dark didn't know exactly what he was playing against, I think he's just taking safety precautions right now. That does come at the cost of economy though. So if you look at the worker count at this point, again, 38 workers here for Dark versus 49 for Creator. All Creator really needs to do, and I think this may very well throw a lot of Protoss players off when they go up against Dark, all Creator really needs to do is just sit back and chrono boost out more probes. If he can defend against whatever attack is coming out of the Zerg next, he's gonna be A-okay. But obviously, normally it's the Protoss players who are expected to be aggressive in this type of matchup. So this is not the Dark Templar usage that I expected either. Essentially being a glorified Zealot that gets to scout a little bit further up ahead. Very funky, but I think this may very well be Creator figuring it out, right? Creator must have realized at this point, wait a second. If my opponent is making that many units, and he's got a whole lot, there's a group of Banelings following this up as well, I just need to hold on. No, this is the worst timing to move out, Creator. He sees right now that there are a couple of Banelings close by, tries to target fire them down. Zerglings, oh, get the wraparound right there. Dark, you're so freaking good at this game. Ay, get the wraparound corrosive balls on top of it as well. There's no detection available here for our Zerg player, so that kind of sucks. Those DTs eventually will be able to clean everything up, but the question is, how much damage will be taken here before the Zerg player is forced to retreat? I mean, I don't think he really plans on retreating. I think he's just going to try and maximize his DPS. Not targeting the Nexus. Okay, just settling for the probes and the army instead. Does he start up a lair yet? No. So this is... Okay, hold up. There's apparently a little bit of a pause in the game. Maybe somebody in the comment section can tell us what they said. This is, a classic Dark moment as well, though, where if you were to be Dark in his shoes right now, right, and you're a Zerg player who's going up against DTs, would you rush out detection? Everybody would rush out detection, but Dark's like, no, I'll just make more Zerglings and I keep attacking. Because apparently the best way to defend is by, well, the offense, right? The best defense is the offense. It certainly holds true in StarCraft as well from time to time. Hold position right now on those Zerglings to try and maximize the damage on not just the Adepts, but also the probes. The 6 additional workers do end up going down. Okay. So, Creator, what's the plan? Immortals again. He's morphed a couple of his Dark Templar into Archons. Obviously, Archon Immortal Zealot is really powerful. Does he already have charge? He does. Okay. So, despite all of the trading and despite all of the aggression, Dark's position in this game really isn't that great. So, he always looks very comfortable and he always looks very dominant, but realistically, right, despite the fact that he killed 17 workers, if you look at the worker count right now, Dark really never really made those workers that you really need here as Zerg. So, honestly, the game is It's good right here for Dark, but it's definitely not amazing. Maybe these Banelings can turn the tide here. Nope. Beautiful defense right there by Creator. Sentry still here in the wall off as well. Maybe not the best unit to get rid of Zerglings, but obviously a force field can help out in that regard quite a bit. He wants to hunt down those Zerglings really badly with the Archons, but well, if he drops them right now, nah, not gonna happen. Instead, we've got an Observer up in the air as well. So that Observer is gonna give Creator a little bit of vision to potentially go after a couple of those creep tumors. Okay. So, what's the next step right here, Dark? He's decided to go for the Roach speed upgrade together with the +1 missile. Obviously, those upgrades will finish up right around the same time, so he should be able to go for one hell of an attack, and judging by the fact that he's now making 6 additional Overlords, that may very well be the plan. It's just that pushing with Roach Ravager Link, with maybe some Banelings for support, into Immortal Sentry with a lot of Archons, I mean, it's not gonna work out all too well, I don't think. It's very easy to overestimate your advantage as well when you've killed that many workers. Now, maybe these Zerglings, though. Okay, they're gonna try and see if they can kill the 4th. And I think if he targets it down, he should be able to get that easy peasy. Cancels it already. Creator isn't even really gonna try and defend it. Realizes that he's completely out of position. But this Protoss army has been growing for some time. Supply-wise, Dark is still in a better position in that regard, but these Protoss units obviously are very, very supply efficient. 12 Ravagers. Whew. 12 Ravagers just finished up here for Dark. But Dark is not teching up. He could have gone Swarm Host, he could have gone straight into a Hive, he could have gone into Hydras, he could have had Lurkers out by now. But no. Maybe that's eventually the plan. Dark is just sitting back though. I think Brute Lords would have been a fantastic choice. Usually against Archon Immortal, that is what you're aiming for, but Dark apparently going for a Ravager Ling Bane with Roaches for support and a whole bunch of Queens. A very flimsy unit composition, and usually you do need a good economy to actually catch the Protoss player. With only 71 drones. I don't know if I like this unit compo too much. I think we would really need at least like 80. Anyhow. The drones are under a little bit of assault right now as well, as Dark is forced to now finally turn back around. This is the first time that Dark seems to be caught off guard in this entire series. Creator being incredibly obnoxious here with his harassment, just constantly setting for Overlords and Zerglings and just little bits and pieces here and there. Losing the Prism would suck, but yeah, there you go. A couple of Zealots in the main base as well. Just to be annoying, right? Don't get the Archons lost though. Yeah, you gotta be careful. You don't lose the Archons. Okay, he's actually targeting the Hydra then. He does get it. Fair enough. Zealots are going to be sacrificed here for the greater good. And the Prism. Either it's going to get recalled or it will take the, it will take the long way back home. DT's right now over here as well. Okay. So Creator's goal, he must have recognized exactly what he's playing against. I mean, he's now seen the Lair Tech here, so he knows. Creator's goal is simply to just create a super powerful army that Dark can't really stop. If he can fight off creep, that is much preferred. That's exactly the situation that he is aiming for right now, although there is a little bit of creep still available. Creep tumors were already destroyed. Very good force fields there by Creator, who's trying to slice this Zerg army in half. And this is one hell of a Protoss army. There's no Storm, there's no Colossi, there's no Disruptors, it's just heavy hitters. So in a way, this is low tier versus low tier, even though the Protoss units are significantly higher tier. Those Immortals are having a field day, man. The problem is, though, those Protoss units are thick, right? With like 3 Cs and in all uppercase. They need a big concave in order to actually stand side by side, because the Zerg army is all firing, whereas this Protoss army is derping around a lot. Very good corrosive biles right there, though, from our Zerg player, trying to make the best of this scenario. He's spreading around the Archons right now, trying to make sure that they get as much surface area as possible, whereas Dark is trying to just kill whatever he can. Okay, now this is a pretty dang good fight, though, for Creator. Most of his units are firing all at the same time. Look at him pushing back those Roaches and Ravagers. He warps in a couple more Zealots, but he's afraid of losing the Prism, so he decides to cancel that. Instead, starts juggling. Immortals over there, together with an Archon and a few Stalkers. They've been trying their best to kill the Nexus, or, well, the Zerg Nexus, and they've successfully done it. So he both wins the economy war, as well as the army war here. Very nicely done by Creator. Making the best of a very difficult scenario. GG is cold, and that means that Creator evens up the score. Our final game for today, it takes place on Ancient Cistern. Lovely play right there, though, from Creator. So Creator tried his best to trick his opponent into thinking it was a Stargate opener in the earlier stages of the game. Then he realized at some point, crap, I've been caught, right? He knows that it's some sort of Twilight play instead. He knows that there's Dark Templar potentially coming. What I'm gonna do is force out a ton of units out of my opponent, but then not actually engage. And we don't normally see that for Protoss players. I think most Protoss players, when they're, well, going for a timing attack, they will go for the timing attack, right? So Creator, once again, opting for the Twilight Council here as well. Maybe he's not planning on going for that many Adepts this time around, but I think the best move he made in that previous game is just sort of sit there on 3 bases while building up his economy. Even though it feels a little bit funky, he realized, okay, my opponent must respect the amount of units I can produce, so therefore he must be making a lot of army, and if he's making a lot of army, there's really no reason for me to fight if I've already got the economical advantage. Me playing the latter, I'm just playing checkers. These guys are playing 3D mind games with chess on the side. So once again, it is Glaives. Maybe this time around he will actually commit to it though. We'll see. First 2 Adepts going across the map. Getting the tumor would be really sweet. Not gonna happen though. Perfect timing right there by Dark. He decided to shade backwards. The Zerglings right now coming in. They want to get the wraparound, but sadly right there for those links, the Adepts do manage to sneak out. Dark Shrine once more on the back of this. Last time we didn't really see a commitment to the Dark Shrine. I mean, he made like 1 Dark Templar that I guess, you know, on this map's equivalent would stand out there. A glorified Zealot. We'll see if it decides to do it differently this time. So Dark started making a ton of army in the previous game off of like 38 drones, which is barely enough for 2 base saturation, but not really. You kind of need 22 workers per base if you want to optimally mine the mineral line over here, and also the 2 gases. So it's 2 drones per mineral field, 3 workers per gas geyser. You really want to make sure you get at least 44 workers usually as Zerg before you start making any army. That way you know that at the very least you can match the Protoss eco. Okay, once again he scouts the amount of Adepts here, similar amount of Adepts as we had in the previous game. Twilight Council is gonna finish up its upgrade. A Robo Facility is a little bit late to this party, so there's not gonna be a Prism as quickly, and I don't think there will be an Observer as early either. They'll be forced into a Prism first, if I were to make a guess. How many gates do we even have? It's only 3 gateways, yeah. So this is barely a commitment at all. So the Glaives upgrade is really funny here. I wonder if he's doing this on purpose, where he's trying to just use Adepts defensively. Because they are fantastic against this, against this Zerg-based army. Now, one big advantage for Zergs, when they don't see a Stargate opener, is that they can go straight into a Spire. Oftentimes, Zergs don't really have the time to make this move. Dark could have done it in the previous game as well, if he realized what he was playing against. But I think right now he's got the knowledge from that previous game. He's recognizing the scenario. He must realize, okay, my opponent is once again playing me for a fool. I'll put down a Spire significantly quicker. So this Spire, I mean, the lair itself, right, is much, much earlier this time around. This Spire is going to be entirely unscouted. There's really no way that Protoss is going to figure that out anytime soon. He did go for the Prism first. He is going for the Observer on the back of it. The only way in which I can imagine Zerg getting spotted here is if Protoss goes into the main base. That being said, off of those couple of gateways, right? There's only 3 gateways here. He made an awful lot of Adepts. There's no Roach Warren or anything like that. The Shade even gets cancelled here as well. So, Creator trying to make the best of it. Spire finishes up right now. Dark has been, well, trying to save up some money, which is also the reason why these Adepts have been so difficult to clean up. Couple Dark Templar in the main base, not a lot of detection available. He does spot the little blur, so at least he's going to be able to get it out. And, well, Creator does eventually now see the Spire. 9 Mutas are about to pop. I think it's time to get home, Dark, or Creator, rather. You're going to lose the Prism. You need to go home. He probably assumed that it was just finishing. Yeah, now there's no way. Okay, giving it up. Giving it up. This is an interesting scenario, though. Mutas against Protoss are usually just harassment tools, right? So, I wonder how many Dark is gonna make. Oftentimes we see one big group of Mutas, so like 8 to maybe 10 or so. And then straight back down to Roaches. But in this particular case, we don't have a Roach Warren, and Dark just started up the +1 flyer attack as well. that's a big indication he wants to stick around on Mutas for a long time to come. So even though Mutas aren't very good at fighting armies straight up, like especially if there's Archons in the mix and say for example Psionic Storm is researched, you cannot really do that much with the Mutas. But in this sort of scenario, yeah, he's got full map control now for a little bit already. If he can continuously harass and actually build up the Muta count, there is a moment where you can start facing off against Stalkers. And you can even start magic boxing against Archons as well. Okay. So, Creator right now, up with his back against the wall. He can't really move out. Maybe sneak out a couple Dark Templar or a few Adepts, but that will basically be it. For the next couple minutes, he'll have to play defense. A couple of changelings pretending to be zealots. Not entirely sure what the plan was anyways. He scouted everything inside of the main base, but I guess he had some energy, so he used it. Yeah, he's going mass Muta. Okay. We're going already up to 23 Mutalisks right here. The problem with mass Muta, for Protoss usually, is that there's always the option for Zerg to just simply choose to never fight your army and to fully counterattack instead. There was a time in StarCraft 2, I think like 2012, maybe 2013 or so, where Zerg players couldn't really face off against the Protoss armies very well, but they figured out, okay, if I make 50 Mutas, I can literally kill them before they can kill me. So as long as I get my Muta count up to speed, I don't actually ever have to address their army, because I can just destroy them on their side of the map. And this is reminding me of that quite a bit. We're already up to 25. Now, okay, 1 DT did manage to get across. Nicely done. 5 workers in total, not bad. But yeah, you gotta be careful here. What exactly do you do as Creator? Ideally you go into Storm here, or you go into Mass Phoenix. But making Phoenixes against somebody who's already got 25, well, soon to be 30 Mutas, it's not gonna happen. Oh my god, we are really going heavy into Mutas. Yeah, he's just spending all the gas on it. He's barely got any workers. Like, he saturated the gases in the natural, I think, before he really got a good amount of drones out. But anyways. Is he gonna engage? Is he gonna engage? Yeah, so what he decides to do right here is Magic Box. Magic Boxing is a little technique that you can use on your Mutas to keep them spread out. Obviously, Mutas have not the biggest firing range, but if you keep them spread out reasonably well, you can negate a lot of that Archon splash damage. And this is looking really rough right now for Creator. Creator is gonna have to get something done. He's stuck on Mass Stalker. Mass Stalker is good when you're below like 20 Mutas or so. But Stalkers, much like Archons in the previous game, they can kind of block each other, right? They can kind of, well, derp each other out a little bit, because the Mutas can stack up like this, but the Stalkers actually need, well, their own place on the ground. So unless they can all blink and all engage at the same time, I would be a little bit scared to defend mass Muta with mostly just Stalkers here. We're going up to 40 Mutas in a pro game. Okay, he can start fighting this, honestly. This many Zerglings? The Zerglings don't have any upgrades? Okay, good cancel. Not losing additional resources there. If you can snipe that, that would be huge as well. Look at how much damage these units already deal. Ay. And this is every Protoss player's worst nightmare. It feels so bad when you're being run around like a fool. Yeah, so this is the point where the Mutas can start fighting the Stalkers, especially when the upgrades get denied like that. You don't really have to continuously fight them, but with some good targeting, it can definitely happen. That Archon, okay, the Archon getting some big hits in. Very nicely done right there by Creator, who's now trying to create a surround right here on these units in a very curious position. My god, that was beautiful right there by Creator, who was, I mean, honestly dead in the water. At least that's what it seemed like, but he just killed 19 Mutalisks. Absolutely massive. Zerglings have been built on the back of this as well, but they don't have any upgrades. And that movement right there, honestly really sick. Having the Prism filled with 2 Archons, dealing some splash damage right there, forcing the Mutas to group up together to fight the Stalkers. Okay, Dark never started up the Evo chambers, so he doesn't really have the potential to really transition away from this. He is going Mass Muta, and Mass Muta is what he's going. So, he's got Mutas everywhere, by the way. It's not just a group over there on the right, or in the top right. He's got more of them around the map too. Now the Archon count is looking really nice. Dark Templar here. Working on a hatchery that has just been planted down. A couple more Mutas here. Okay, do get sniped. Not bad at all. This has just bought a lot of time right here for Creator. If you want to transition towards something more reliable against Mutas, like for example Storm, right now would be the time. This is a group of Mutas now that has been tasked with freeing the other group of Mutas. So I guess we now are on 2 control groups worth of Mutalisks. He's slowly rebuilding it, Dark that is. One thing that I really like to do back in the early days, right? So I'm talking, you know, Grandpa Loco here. Back in the early days when Mass Muta was really popular, you could go straight into a hive, start up double Evo Chamber upgrades and go into Ultras. So usually you could go straight into Ultras, and Ultras are amazing against both Stalkers as well as Archons. Maybe that's what Creator is reminiscing of as well, as he decides to go for an Immortal. That is a little bit funny, but here comes the big Zergling flood. None of that is happening, look at that. Dark Templar in the wall off, in the choke point, so there's really no way for the Zerg player to easily go in. He needs some detection. Only just now is when he starts up the Overlord speed upgrade, so he doesn't have any fast-moving detection, and that honestly makes this all very tricky. There's another detector now flying on over in this direction, but when you're putting the drones to kill a DT, you know, life is getting a little bit desperate. That move from Creator over here, that was beautiful. That was really nice. Sorry, that was like 3 minutes ago, but that was a sick move. Clumping up the Mutas by engaging with the Stalkers and then suddenly appearing with like 3 Archons. Okay, here's an Archon right now in the wall off as well, but that's way too many Mutalisks. I think what... Oh, that was also really cute. Dark dropping a Changeling and putting it on hold position to prevent the Archons from going into their own base. Maybe that's what he was trying to do with those Changelings earlier on in this series as well. Because that was really cute. Yeah, Operation Freedom Muta not really working out all too well, but at the same time it's also occupying like 20 Stalkers here, so maybe not the end of the world. Another Nexus, building all the way on the right side of the map. I don't like the timing of this fourth. I think it should have been done a while ago. Okay. I missed the Grand Escape. Sorry, I'm gonna back. Apparently there is a moment where he decides to now sneak around the top section of the map. This is the moment? What has changed? What has changed to the previous 3 minutes? That right now is the time that we're gonna start evacuating. I guess he's had enough. Ooh. 1 Muta. 2 Mutas. Yeah, 2 Mutas, not really too bad. Only 2 Mutas right there to get rid of that army. Now the battery overcharge is out of range. These are well upgraded Mutas, right? Maybe that's the big difference. And at the same time, you know what? There's nothing actually protecting the wall off over here. Recall right now forced as well. There is still a Dark Templar here obnoxious at that base on the left side of the map. But I think I'm going to keep my army over here, or my camera over here, as the big armies are located in this spot. I don't like the Disruptors at all. I think the Disruptor and the Immortal were a clear indicator that Creator assumed that his opponent was going to transition away from this. But Dark is just making Mutas. So we're going 100 plus Mutas in this game. At least if he has a couple more minutes, that is the plan. There's no follow-up at all. But look at the Muta damage right now. We're now at the point where the Mutas can just point at a structure and it dies. Other than maybe the Nexus, but he can essentially one-shot everything. Splitting up your units is great in theory. The problem is that these units still dominate the skies, and they can certainly group up much faster, the Zerg that is, than the Protoss can. So right now we're fighting this army with only half of the Protoss units present. Beautiful magic boxing here once again by Dark. Look how spread out those Mutalisks are, minimizing the splash damage of those Archons. Well, there's no Storm available in this game either, but it would have been great against that too. Now the Zerglings, yeah, they push back that army right there on the left side. Most of the Zerglings, if not all of the Zerglings, end up dying, but that was still a brilliant trade right there for Dark, who's now nearly doubling his opponent's army supply. Still, he needs to be careful. These Mutas, they do heal up very quickly out of combat, but, well, if Creator can have any say in the matter, he's gonna try and force the combat continuously. The Mutas, though, clumped up together, they're difficult to read. You can't really tell exactly how many there are. Obviously, Dark can always split them up as well, and he indeed decides to go for the full-on counter-attack. We first off had Immortal Sentry earlier on in this series. Now we're going into Mass Muta. I mean, call me a boomer, but This is the early days, man. It's the early days at a much higher level. It's the early days with 4 times the amount of APM. Anyways. Yeah, the Mutas are absolutely murdering everything, though. Can Creator shut down all of the structures from the Zerg before the Zerg can shut down all of the structures from the Protoss? The win condition in a game of StarCraft 2 is to destroy all of your opponent's structures. And what's difficult for Protoss is that Dark can just make units everywhere. He can make structures wherever he pleases. He doesn't need the power fields. So as Protoss, you can really only go for gas geysers and maybe a couple of pylons. But as Zerg, you can essentially plant those hatches everywhere. I'll switch it over to the structures tab right there in the top left hand corner so you can keep track of exactly how many there are still available. Recall right now used on the Nexus here at the 3rd. Dark could have killed that a little bit ago, but he decided not to. Okay. Both players have taken tremendous amount of losses. Creator, though, was not able to recall everything. So I think that's what we're hunting right now. Yeah, as Dark. He wants to hunt whatever he can. These Stalkers, they're probably not going to be able to finish up that lair if Zerg decides to commit to defending it. But already, Dark has remade a bunch of hatches, right? Yeah, okay. So that's maybe a couple too many Mutas here to kill this group of Stalkers. But hey, you guys are super dead. Like, you're deader than dead. There you go. Okay. That was a brilliant decision right there, though, by Dark. Dark taking the base right here on the right side as well as on the left side. Hatchery on the left will get spotted. Zerglings in the main base, unupgraded, but at the very least they, well, they're trying their best. Brilliant positioning right there from Creator, who really is not going down without a fight. I'm very impressed by Creator lately, man. Creator has looked like probably the 2nd best Protoss player over in Korea right now. The guy is actually very, very strong. I think he's oftentimes overshadowed a little bit by, well, for example, Hero. But Creator actually has found a second wind in his play over the last couple of months. He's looking insanely good. Like, some of the moves he's made in this series, just beautiful. Oh, the Spire apparently died. So Dark forced to remake it. Decides to remake in the most obvious location ever. But sometimes the most obvious location is the one that Protoss players will least expect. But yeah, the Muta count is just too big, right? I mean, I've got a feeling we're now at the point where Dark can actually fight the Archons once more with the Mutalisks. But he doesn't need to. That's the real scary thing about mass Muta armies. You really don't need to. You don't need to fight these armies. Protoss can't really win a base race if Zerg is all over the map. I mean, he can take bottom right and top left at the same time, and there's really not much that Protoss can do to contest it. Creator has not rebuilt their structures, and that means that the final 2 structures are the ones over here inside of the old main base. And I think that's it. Oh, no, it's not. There's a pylon building. Okay, there is a pylon building. Didn't realize Creator had brought a probe right here with his main units. I was ready to sign off in this video, but no. Dark does spot the pylon. Careful now. Oh, there's another one. There's a gas geyser taken right now as well. You gotta be so careful right here, man. Okay, we're just leapfrogging whatever we can, apparently. There's another pylon. This one probe. Probius himself apparently has been tasked with defending. Big hit right there to one to mute us. Ooh, careful now. Careful now, Dark. Don't give away a game where you are essentially victorious, right? I am personally very good at grasping defeat from the jaws of victory. It is one of my personal strengths. I don't recommend it, however. So Creator's win condition at this point is crossing his fingers and hoping Dark messes up. I don't see any longevity here in the Protoss at all. He's got no nexus, he's got one structure, and that's this pylon over here. He can't really produce anything else either. Okay. The thing is, Dark doesn't know that. Dark doesn't know how many minerals his opponent has. Dark just rebuild bases. So 2 hatcheries here. Rebuilding whatever he can. Okay, well, he can take care of one of the Archons. Nicely done right there. Creator hoping, praying that his opponent decides to engage with clumped up Mutas against the 4 Archons. But honestly, that should never happen, right? Well, I mean, army supply-wise, it's obviously heavily in favor of Dark, but these units from Protoss are very strong. Here's another magic box. Decent magic box. 2 more Archons end up going down, though, and I think, yeah, there's really no way for Protoss to continue fighting here. Brilliant play right here by both guys, but in the end, there can only be one winner, and that winner is Dark.